So, New Year's is nearly upon us. Start of a new decade. Hey guys, welcome back to the show, welcome back to the diary. So yes, it is coming up to the final day of the decade. This is the penultimate day. So, what sort of thing has been your best part of this year? I say this year, this decade. I think, for me, my favourite things, I'll put them into categories, things like games, TV series, that sort of thing. So, my favourite game this decade has got to be Apex Legends. I would have said Last of Us, but I can't remember when it came out. If it came out in this decade, then Last of Us tops Apex. Last of Us tops Apex because of its story, its graphic content, and its playability. Especially with the multiplayer. The multiplayer is absolutely amazing. You jump on it, play for hours and hours and hours, and hardly ever get bored. Yes, you might get a bit stroppy with other players cheating or anything like that, but the way that they've done it is that a new player can't just pick up the controller and play the multiplayer and do well. Yes, okay, someone with gun skill can do really well, but someone who's played the story to Last of Us and understood all the crafting mechanism and how the crafting works and what makes what will actually always outplay someone with gun skill. Exactly as it is in Siege, someone with map knowledge can outplay someone with gun skill. Because people know certain places, so if you're sitting on a window like this, you can go around the door, blow open the door, go through, and shoot that person that's sitting there at the window, that's repelling at the window. Even if that person's good at gun skill, they can turn around and shoot down at you, but obviously with the way Siege works, you can't always look far enough round to be able to stop that. That's why someone with map knowledge can outplay someone with gun skill. That's why someone with crafting knowledge can outplay someone with gun skill, because you just craft up a bomb or a grenade or something and throw it at them and boom, dead. That's why Last of Us trumps Apex. But if Last of Us wasn't made this decade, then Apex. Apex because it has got to be the better in the BR. BR has taken over this decade. It is the biggest game genre of this decade. It is what this decade's going to be remembered for in the history of gaming, I bet you. It's the decade of the BRs. Everyone's bringing out a BR. Everyone's trying to bring out BRs. Like a few years ago, if not last decade, it was Flappy Bird. Those kind of games. It was a variation of Flappy Bird. And it's like, everyone's found something that the public wants to play. Everyone's found something that the public is crying out for. While Fortnite didn't start it, just so you know, guys, if you're looking at BRs and going, BRs are rubbish because Fortnite. Slightly agreed, but Fortnite didn't start it, guys. DayZ started it. DayZ started it. Whichever way you want to look at it, whichever way you want to pronounce ZZ. At this point in time, because I pronounce it both ways, depending on what it is, DayZ is Z to me, not DayZ, because DayZ really doesn't make any sense. DayZ started it, then it was PUBG, then Fortnite, and then everyone else. I can't remember whether Apex came before COD's one or not, but by the by. Something that I want to see in Apex as the next years come along is the ability to wall slide. I want to be able to see that, because Apex is actually technically from the same universe and set in the same world, as Titanfall is. And in Titanfall, you've got these big titans, big mechs, that you can jump in and shoot from. That's another thing that I want to see in Apex. Titans, or Titan-style robots. Either on the map that you can get in and maybe Crypto can take over. Or maybe just another hero or legend in the Apex world that as their ultimate gadget can spawn in a mech or a robot, even if it's just a mini robotic version of the Leviathans. That would be cool. A mini robotic version of the Leviathans. That would be pretty cool to be inside. I mean, I don't know whether it would be that the whole team can get in or just one person in the team. That would end up being a bit kind of silly, considering Apex is primarily a team game. You're supposed to work as a team, guys. Remember, Apex, team game. Stop running off on your own and stop ignoring the Jump Master. There's a Jump Master for a reason. That's just a couple of things I want to see in Apex in the coming years. So that's games. I didn't really have a favourite book of this year, of this decade. I say favourite TV series. I'm actually going to change this to say which TV series blew up in my mind. And I say blew up, I mean, this TV show has been going on for more than a decade, maybe even half a century. Definitely over a century if you consider the really, really old episodes. But since Christopher Eccleston, yes, I'm talking about Doctor Who. Since Christopher Eccleston, I reckon this has been going on for, because it came out early 2000s, so, no, it is this decade, yeah. Early 2000s, this came out back with Christopher Eccleston, so Doctor Who has blown up big time this decade. I mean, we've had regenerations from Christopher Eccleston to David Tennant, aka the best. I know, Matt Smith was amazing, however, no one can beat the comedy stylings and acting talent of David Tennant. I'm sorry guys, I know. And all you David Tennant fans out there will be agreeing with me like crazy. Yes, David Tennant was the best Matt Smith. Yep, fine, very good. To begin with, Matt Smith was trying too hard to be like David Tennant. I think Matt recognised the fact that the country would look at Doctor Who in sadness because David Tennant had regenerated and David Tennant was so good as the Doctor in the role as the Doctor, that Matt was like, right, okay, I'm going to take this beloved TV actor and this beloved character and keep it going for as long as I can. So, and I can see it. I can kind of see it. Something tells me it was done on purpose, not just by Matt's choice, but by the director's choice as well. Not only did the cinematics at the beginning change, the not trailers, but the opening scene changed. The music changed slightly. You can hear that the drums are slightly heavier. You can hear that the drums are slightly heavier. It's the fact that Matt Smith, when he was dressed in the same clothes David was dressed in, he was acting like David was. The second he found his own clothes in as that character, in as Doctor Who, he started being himself. Remember the age-old Who the Man? No, never doing that again. Never. It's that moment that I see that it's that moment in particular that makes me think that was on purpose, not just by Matt's design but by the director's design as well. Because it's one of those moments of, I'm copying the old Doctor, look at me. Oh, no one's going for this. Yeah, but I rethink that. And he starts acting as he would himself. I mean, if you look to future episodes after that one, he's just sunk right into the role as himself. And he's acting it as he would, not as anyone else would. We saw the change of the Master to Missy. I think half the world freaked out to that. Or half the country, at least. And I'm not surprised. I missed that transformation. I didn't watch it. But it changed the entire storyline and idea of Doctor Who. There were many different people saying, oh no, the Doctor can't be a woman, it's Doctor Who, it's always been a man, sort of thing. And it's like, wow, sexist. I think the new Doctor played it really well. She is absolutely amazing. I have never faulted the choices in who plays the Doctor before. I mean, granted, there was a moment with Peter Capaldi that I wasn't impressed with. But looking back on it, I don't actually think it was anything to do with Peter's acting. I will hold my hands up and say Peter is an amazing actor. He is awesome. He did really, really well as the Doctor, especially the Dark Doctor. That's what I saw him as. That's what it was. And to see him become the actual Doctor, it was just a bit creepy, sort of, for me, to the point where I just completely skipped that entire season when he was acting, when he was the Doctor. Mainly because of the episode that was mainly about losing someone that you love. The companion lost her boyfriend, basically, and she was just adamant and angry and upset. She was adamant to the point where she was taking the TARDIS key and dropping it in the only fire that would destroy a TARDIS key. And I think it must have been something with her acting at that point in time that kind of threw me off it, because it just felt way too overplayed, way too over the top, and just not like her or her character at all. Granted, I might have missed stuff in between to see that transformation in her, but that's the problem. If you've got people missing stuff and they come back to that, you're gonna make people miss more. Because if I got thrown off by that, there's probably quite a few other people who did as well. So what I was trying to say was that Doctor Who blew up big time, not just because of the revamp, the regeneration of the show, but because the directors, writers, and everyone involved are trying the absolute hardest to push the boat out with it. They're trying to find every last little corner of the universe that they can and explore it as much as they can. Like with the female Doctor, they only changed the Master first to test how the audience would react, and actually most of the audience reacted quite well to the Master being a woman now. And then suddenly everyone's all like, oh no, Doctor can't be a woman. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, you were fine with the Master being a woman, what's the problem? Sort of thing. But they still haven't touched on one little thing, and I think they're doing it on purpose. And that is, the Doctor still hasn't been ginger yet. We still haven't had a ginger Doctor yet. I think they're still going to make that joke. They're going to keep making that joke, I think. But I don't think we're going to see a ginger Doctor at all. So that's a TV show that blew up this decade. So how about music? Now, music in general for me is a weird one. I'll listen to it if I like it, then I like it. If not, then I just won't listen to it. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to give the band another chance or a listen to of a different song. If I don't like that song, it's like Busted Sleeping with the Light On. Not my favourite. Really don't like that one. But back in the day, when they were getting big and when they were actually around, Busted was one of my top bands. Kind of still are. Same with McFly. There are some McFly songs that I'm just like, really? Too, but I'm just like, yay, to a lot of them. Nickelback's an exception. There are very few Nickelback songs that I'll sit there and be like, I don't like this one. I really don't like this one. Because Nickelback to me is my top band. It's, if I can have an album or listen to an album and just be like, yep, every single song, absolutely like it. Only a few problems with one or two here and there, or some sound the same, some sound similar. For a while I was like, no they don't. They sound nothing alike. And then I'm trying to look for a certain song, and I'm like, it's this one. No, it's not. It's this one. No, it's not. It's this one. No, that's not either. So, yeah, granted, a lot of Nickelback songs do sound similar. I'm wondering whether that's slightly on purpose to prove the point that when a riff is made, it's only the lyrics and everything else that goes around the riff that makes a song unique. A riff can be used at any point. I mean, there's a Steve Cash video where he's playing a game called Guess the Song. He's only playing four chords of a riff, and so many different songs fit with it. I mean, Kesha fitted to it. Just other things just fitted really, really well to these four chords, and it's like, I see where you're going with that. So yeah, everyone's nicking little bits off each other and everyone's reusing things. That's kind of why a lot of Nickelback songs sound really similar. But I have to say that the favourite album's kind of biased because it's one of the only ones that I know that I've listened to this decade, and that has to be Nickelback's Feed the Machine. Feed the Machine has got so many new songs that I love on it. Granted, finally, I have found a Nickelback song that I'm meh to. I'm not going to turn it off if it comes onto the radio, but I don't actually have it in my Spotify playlist of chill music or other songs, because it's not in my top want to listen to kind of songs. It's not amongst the songs that I really want to listen to, so it's not there. And that is the title song, Feed the Machine. It's actually a really good song, I will give it that. That's why it's meh. It's not that it's a bad song, it's not that I hate it, it's not that there's anything wrong with it, it's just there are other songs on the album Feed the Machine that I'm more hyped by, that I want to listen to more. I have to say that my biggest song from that album, especially as a quick cure for depression or at least a down moment, is After the Rain. Listen to the lyrics of After the Rain. Every single time I hear those lyrics, it reminds me of what life should be. It reminds me about how you're supposed to, or at least how I feel you should be seeing life. Things like, it's not a race, it's a companion, and other things like that. It's like one of their old songs If Today Was Your Last Day. It's the same sort of idea. Both of those songs go hand in hand with each other to quickly cure a moment of sadness or a moment of down feeling. If you're feeling slightly depressed, I don't know how well this is going to work with severe depression, but it helps when I'm just having mood swings that are just low mood. It perks me right back up again. Because I sit there and go, oh yeah, it sort of reminds me of the phrase "don't sweat small stuff." So that's got to be the biggest album of this decade for me, and the biggest song on said album for the decade. I wanted to say Sifa and Bandit for Life for this one, but I don't 100% know when that came out, so I couldn't. But I recently found Bandit for Life, and Bandit for Life is a good song. So, what about Leisure? The biggest thing for me this decade has got to be CBD. I have for a long time been interested in the idea of trying cannabis or CBD, but been concerned about the effects of cannabis itself, so I've kind of avoided it. But since trying CBD, I've kind of found out that I can relax a lot easier. I found out that I can sleep a lot quicker and a lot easier. I can have a more comfortable night's sleep. I'm not lying there going, ow, ready, because most of the muscles have gone to sleep, or they're tensing around my knee, making it really painful. And it's the same with day to day. My knees are just a lot less painful during the day with CBD, and it means that I can do things that I can't normally do, especially in the winter when it's colder and the screws are hurting more. If I have CBD, I can actually go out for a walk. I can actually sit somewhere for a while without my knees hurting. There's one thing, it's not just the autism that stops me sitting still, it's my knees. If I'm in the wrong position, I have to keep moving my knees or moving my legs, because my knees just hurt too much that I just can't sit in that position comfortably anymore. So CBD's got to be the best for leisure at the minute. Biggest news story. I know most people are gonna think that I'm gonna want to say the Chilean miners. No. In fact, some of you might have already worked out that it is likely to be Harry Potter related. Yes! As far as I know, if I'm correct, which I'm pretty sure I am, some point in this decade, some point recently actually, within the past few years, past 5 I think actually, we lost the great Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman was one hell of an actor. The lines that he had in Harry Potter, some were difficult, some were basic, but he put one hell of a spin on them, especially the basic line of "Don't lie to me." You can tell straight away from him saying those words, he was once a stage actor. The fact that he put the emphasis on the start of each word and made it so clear just shows that he was once a stage actor, because that's how clear stage actors have to be. There's no way of mumbling or maybe quietly speaking like this sort of thing, because there isn't a mic to pick you up. I mean, sometimes there are, depending on what kind of actor you are. Most stages, most theatres will allow for a certain number of mics per performance. You can bring in ones from outside if you so wish. Some theatres will have some on set for you to use no matter what. Maybe like 3 or 4. That's how many is granted to that theatre to use. If you need any more, you can bring them in. But most theatres won't go any more than 10, if not 15 or 20 mics per performance, even if it's a big one. Because they tend to give too much feedback and there's no need. If you've got a big chorus, you just plant one of the people with a mic in the middle of the chorus or in with the chorus, and that's enough to amplify some of them. And normally, they just ask the chorus to sing loud and project, so they don't need a mic. So if you've got an actor that's only got a few scenes, it's only got a couple of scenes, a couple of lines, you don't normally give them a mic. So Alan Rickman going through the line "Don't lie to me" the way he did, it just... He might have been part of the chorus at one point, he might have had a mic, some people know, some people don't. But the point is, the fact that he enunciated every word shows stage performer. I don't really have a favourite food or anything else that I can really think of, really. So, what I'm going to say is, I suppose my proudest achievement, even though it was irritating and I didn't really get on and I didn't really cope very well, proudest achievement has got to be attempting to go to uni. Attempting to suffer through uni, I should say, because I did suffer. I partially suffered of my own accord, I partially suffered because of the institute. The place I went to wasn't very helpful. Granted, they had other autistic students and everything, so they knew what they were dealing with. They knew what they were getting into, and they had reasonable support for that. However, having so many autistic students in the university or college itself messed them up to the point where they started categorizing, I'll say categorizing because I can't think of a more appropriate word, autistic students by skill and by what they were doing. So basically, if one autistic student was doing really well, then they'd expect other autistic students to do the same, and it's like, it's not working. It doesn't work like that. Honestly, you can't expect 2 autistic people to work on the same wavelength. The only way they're going to work on the same wavelength is if their autism is similar to each other's, or the way their brain works is similar to each other, because then if one isn't picking up what the teacher or lecturer is saying, then the other autistic person can reword it in such a way that that person can. But moments like that are not very common. It's uncommon to get 2 autistic people in a lecture hall on a course that are in the same class, in the same group, at the same time, because most of the time, more like 90% of all autistic people are different to the person sitting next to them. If you put 100 autistic people in the room, granted, there will be some sort of 50-50 split between not just the entire group by itself, but an even split of different styles, sort of thing. So if you were to split it into a whole pie and put it into 8, there'd be an even number in each 8 little bits. But the point is the fact that if you jumble that pie up, or that pizza up, then what you've got is, even if there is an even number of each segment, they're all messed up. There isn't always going to be two people of the same style of autism from the same piece of that pie or piece or whatever you're seeing it as, sitting next to each other, either in two different segments or sitting next to each other in general. Because you messed it up, you jumbled them up. You can't necessarily judge straight away if someone's the same as you. You've got to spend time with that person to find out whether their autism is similar to yours or not, or whether their autism is similar to someone else's. And while buddy systems can help, buddy systems can work, some autistic people reject buddy systems. Some autistic people think it's not worth their time because they don't feel we'll say autistic enough or have enough issues with stuff to need a buddy, to warrant a buddy. Like with me, sometimes it's embarrassing to have someone help me with certain things, or I'm too tired that I just can't think straight and that I just can't work and that I just can't speak the fact that I can't work and that I can't think straight, to the point where I'm just verbally lashing out to helpers or people helping me. And it's like, I know they're only helping, I know they're only trying, but when my brain's stuck on one particular path of something, especially if I'm listening to what teachers, lecturers and anyone else who is setting the work is saying about the work, and then someone else comes in and is like, oh, it's this, and it's like, no, that's not what they said. You weren't in the room, how do you know that? What? You don't know, shush, sort of thing. So I end up getting annoyed with the helpers because they're not quite on the same length or path as the tutor is, and I'm just confused to the point where my brain's scrambled and I just can't understand it at all. So that's my problem. Which is why I say buddy system can work, because you've got someone in the group, in the room with you, and you're buddying up, you're working together, you're like, do you get it? You got it? Do you need any rewording? Is that what you think he means, or do you think he means something else? Are you sure that's what it means? Because I understood this. Shall we ask? All that sort of thing. But buddy system outside the session, especially for people like me, can just mess things up. Can just make things a little bit worse, make things a little bit harder. And I think that was the main problem for me at uni. It was the fact that I didn't have someone in the session that I could really ask, that I knew that I could understand it from. Granted, there were people in the group that I could speak to and ask, but understanding it from them as well was just as difficult as it was for other people. But that's my proudest achievement, I reckon, just trying uni. So that's it for today, guys. Answer any of the questions below. What was your favourite thing? What was your biggest thing? What was the biggest news story for you? That is the main question I'm going to ask. What's the biggest news story for you this decade? But feel free to answer any of the others down below, and I will see you guys tomorrow, New Year's Eve. See ya!
Put a little bit of shit, put a little bit of shit, put a little bit of shit, get a little bit of gasoline. Welcome to another crime scene. Get a little bit of gasoline. Welcome to another crime scene.